Welcome to episode 3 of Clear the BS to Reinvent Your Life. And this is our new podcast series, and I am so honored to have Susanne Zavelle as our interviewee today, our guest. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Oh my goodness, you are going to love her so much. I know I do. She's I have learned so much from her. She is an entrepreneur in the highest sense. She is a master manifester and a rainmaker. And if that's not enough, she is a retired labor and delivery nurse, a single mom, enough said right there. She's a retired professional athlete in the master's level bikini bodybuilding, and a professional networker who's at like the absolute top of her company. So again, we have so much to learn from Susanne on so many, like, trust me, we could pick any number of topics, and she would be able to teach us so much. And this time we're here talking about how Susanne has had to clear the BS in her life, the limiting belief systems, fears, blind spots, and other programming that blocked her from reinventing herself and her life. So welcome, Susanne. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm excited. And yes. I appreciate it. Yeah.
So as I mentioned during the intro, the whole purpose of this podcast is just to highlight how you have encountered and had to overcome challenges, adversity, BS in your life and that's not swearing, folks, to reinvent yourself to become the person that you really wanted and needed and felt the calling to be. So
yeah,
that's really the only guideline here. And then after that, I'm opening it up to you and what you feel called to talk about and with respect to that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Irene. I am happy to share pieces of my story. And as I was saying a little bit before we started recording here, it's a process of reinventing yourself, and there's always going to be growth. There's always going to be, you're either growing or you're dying. So I find that on a daily basis, I still catch myself getting rid of the BS, the belief systems that are holding me back. I would say that the biggest turning point that really started this ball rolling happened back in 2013. It's about a little over 6 years ago. And my best friend from college, her name was Tinsley. She had been fighting breast cancer for several years, and she was also a nurse and single and never married. And I was helping take care of her towards the end of her life. And one day, it was actually the final time that we were together before she passed away. And she was on hospice care, and it was a time where we both knew that she was going to pass, and it was a super challenging time. I helped her plan her funeral. I wrote her eulogy, and we picked out what she was going to wear. We planned everything, and it was a very sort of a matter of fact thing until one day, as she was lying in bed, she said, "I need to talk to you." And so I sat down next to her, and she looked me in my eyes and she said, Sue, she said, "I know that it's going to be hard when I'm gone." She said, "But my wish for you is that you will finally figure out who you are and that you will become the person that you're supposed to be, because I believe that you were meant to impact millions of lives and you don't even have any idea who you are." And it really hit me. And she was right. She was really right. I didn't, at that time, I really had no identity for myself. My identity was caught up in my job titles. I was a mother. I was a wife at the time. I didn't know who I was as a human being. And so I knew she was right, but I had no idea how I was going to go about that change. But I promised her that I would, and I promised her on literally on her deathbed that I would live the rest of my life in such a way that would honor her life that was cut way too short at the age of 49. So she passed away on February 3rd, 2013. And about 6 months later, I was working out in the gym like I frequently did. I've been working out my whole life since I was about 16, lifting weights and just loving being fit. And someone approached me, a friend of mine, and asked me if I'd ever considered competing. And I laughed. I said, absolutely not. That's crazy. I was 46 at the time. And I just thought that was hilarious. I was like, there's no way. Of course not. And I went home that night, and for whatever reason, I had a major, I don't know if you want to call it an epiphany, a flashback, but something really hit me. And it was this realization all at one moment that I actually did want to do that. I had wanted to do that back when I was a young adult, late teens, early 20s. I actually had a dream of pushing my body and competing at that level, but I'd never given myself permission to even try. And I bawled my eyes out. I wasn't just like crying a little bit. I was having the floodgates opened, and I was bawling, like sobbing, crying. And I've only cried like that 2 times in my life, and that was one of them. And it was just a very much an outpouring of grief that I felt really sad that I understood that nobody had held me back except myself. I couldn't blame it on my parents. I couldn't blame it on my family or my circumstances. I only had myself to look at and understand that, nope, Sue, you're the reason that you never accomplished that. And I made that decision in that moment. I was like, I'm doing this. I am going to compete, and I'm going to nationals. Never done anything like it in my life. And so I made the decision to do it. And I'm the kind of person that when I do commit to something, I'm either all in or not in at all. I don't really know what halfway looks like. When I went to college, I graduated with honors. Everything I've always done to the best of my ability. So training and preparing for something like this was no different. So I set about that process. I hired a nutritionist. I hired a world famous coach who planned my workouts. I hired a personal trainer, and I started working out about 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. And the long story short, within a year, I was second place in the nation in Masters Bikini. And it was an amazing experience. I competed another year after that, I believe. Yes. So I competed for 2 years, and it was a great experience. And during that time, I was with a health and wellness company, and it was a dream of mine. They asked me to represent the company as an official athlete for the company. Of course, I was super excited about that. So when I made the decision to do that, not everyone agreed with me. So my mother was really like, what? She didn't really understand it, but she didn't put me down about it. She just was like, couldn't put her head around why I wanted to do that. Sadly, on the other hand, my father was just completely unaware of the fact that there was even such a thing as a bikini bodybuilding sport. And a little backstory on that situation was that my dad did really well in life. He was an attorney, and he had always done really well in the stock market. But with that wealth, instead of really building us up, or at least I can speak for me, instead of building me up or encouraging me as a young child and a even young adult, even into my 40s, he would, on every, if there was an opportunity, if he was drinking, because there was an alcohol problem, he would tear me down. So there was a constant battle of being torn down, being spoken. I don't even like to repeat the things that were said to me on occasion, but it was, you know, it was very hurtful things. So when I told my father that I was going to do this, I was expecting him to be supportive of me. Like, I don't know what the heck I was thinking, but I was thinking that, you know, he would be excited and support me in that. But because I'd emailed him and told him, well, one day he called me and he pulled the same stunt that he had done on multiple occasions throughout my life and threatened to disown me. Now, up until this moment, in every other circumstance, when my dad would threaten to disown me, I would revert back into that scared little girl space of being terrified because, and it's a long story and I don't want to get into all the details, but I had pretty much been groomed to be dependent on him. And I don't think it was on purpose. I think it was just a subconscious thing that was happening on his part and my part. So, and you know, and I also understand now people can only give you what they have. And sadly, my father just wasn't equipped emotionally to give me what I needed as a little girl. And I'm not mad about that. It is just the way it is. So he called me and threatened to disown me. But fortunately, I had been doing a lot of work and reading. I had read Rod Hairston's book, Are You Up for the Challenge? And I was doing a whole lot of personal growth work and really studying the universal laws. And I had been only studying the laws at that point for, just a very short period of time, but enough to know how to not react. And so when he threatened to disown me, instead of kowtowing to my father, I said, okay. I said, you know what? I said, go ahead and get in your car and drive downtown and go to your attorney's office and you make those changes to your will. If that's what you need to do to feel better about yourself, that's fine. But I'm not for sale and my dreams aren't for sale. Goodbye. And I hung up on my dad. And it was like a weight of the world was lifted off of me. But at the same time, I felt very sad because I had pretty much, in a sense, told him to kiss my butt over it. And it was a pretty brave thing for me to do, but I just felt like it was absolutely necessary. I needed to do that. And so I had given my best friend my word that I would honor her life. And this was a way that I felt like I could do it. It was a part of my journey. And so I made the decision to go forward. And then a year later, I was second in the nation. So yeah, so that was, and you know, that was sort of the beginning. And I think that dedication that it takes to maintain an extremely strict diet and workout schedule really did carry over into business, which is the next part of my life. So it was just a lot of dedication and a lot of internal knowingness that I deserved to chase my dreams and I deserved to have happiness and I deserved to do what I wanted to do. I was a grown woman, but I had never stepped into that power. You know, I had always sort of played second fiddle. I feel like I put everyone else's wishes and desires ahead of mine for most of my life. And this was really the first time that I was like, no, I'm doing this. I don't care what you think. I'm doing it. And I have no regrets. It was the beginning of a lot of changes in my life.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to flesh out some things here without delving into uncomfortable areas. Just the magnitude that you didn't just decide to do this. It went counter to everything that you had been programmed up until that point to be and do and have. In other words, you were essentially groomed to be submissive, dependent, and as you said, second fiddle. In other words, to use a colloquial term, a trophy wife. Right? And so, and when you have such a strong authority figure from birth right on up.
Yeah.
For you to go counter to that programming, especially with the fear that you had been constantly threatened in the past.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even just like you didn't have any idea of how he wouldn't react. Like, deep down inside, you had some idea. You must have had some idea, right? You hoped.
Yeah.
But you still had no idea.
I knew it was a risk.
Truly. And you were willing to do that. And so that, to me, makes the magnitude. It's not just something that you just decided. Okay. Women out there who are listening, not to leave men out there. Women over the age of 40, another programming is that, once a woman hits 40, it's all downhill from there. And right? Yeah. Like, that's what society and media has taught us, that, there's all kinds of stereotypes that go with that. Women over 40 can't get men. Their health is going downhill. Their body's going to pot. Everything's going to start sagging. And you might as well just go to the nursing home right now. You might as well give up. And so, all aside from the little woman syndrome, you went counter to everything that women are programmed to hate about themselves. We are truly programmed to hate ourselves.
Yeah.
And never be happy with our bodies. And I remember once hearing Shania Twain say in an interview that she thought her legs were too big. And I just went, oh my goodness, that was an aha for me, because I was just like, oh my God, if Shania Twain, and this was at the height of her career, that millions of men would do anything to have in their lives, couldn't be happy with her body, what hope do the rest of us have? So you went, it wasn't even that you decided you did this when you were 20 or 25 or 30. Right. You did it at a time when most other women are going.
They're just giving up. Yeah.
So you, on so many levels, you just faced it head on.
Yeah, I did. And it was scary. I mean, I remember after I did that and I hung up on my father, there was so much sadness, because I knew that I was, risking my inheritance. And see, for my whole life, like I said, I had been groomed from a very, very young age to believe that we, the children, were going to have a significant inheritance, like several $1 million. And I had meetings with his estate planning attorney in 2010. And there was a couple $1 million that was supposed to come to me. And I was, in essence, saying, I don't give a damn. I don't care. And I had no backup plan. I was not particularly happy in my marriage, but I was definitely trying to hang in there with everything that I had. So I just threw all caution to the wind, in spite of really not having a backup plan. I just knew that I had to do that. I had to do it because I had made a promise to my best friend on her deathbed, and I would not go back on it. It was non-negotiable. And it wasn't that I'd promised her I was going to compete. I had promised her I would become the woman that I was intended to be. And I felt so strongly that this was just a piece of it. It wasn't about winning trophies. It was about facing my fears. It was about the discipline, and it was about just accomplishing a goal that seemed impossible in in the big scheme of things. So it was just a way that I wanted to challenge myself. It really wasn't about anyone else. It was just me making a promise to my best friend and then keeping it. So yeah, it was that. And then
So, and in our coaching speak, I'm going to do a little aside here and say, I forgot to mention in your bio, like in your introduction, that not only is Susanne such an accomplished entrepreneur and athlete and all-around amazing person, she is also a global master influencer coach. So she's dedicated her life to helping other people as well. And since we coach together, I know that making a promise to your best friend on your deathbed is what we call in our coaching a significant emotional event. In other
Very
words,
much.
it really, you needed something like that to galvanize you, right? And that's what a significant emotional event is. It's something that is so memorable. So like it makes you shift your identity in that moment. And it may not take place, so that you made the decision right then and there, this is what I'm going to do. And yet the seeds were planted.
Yeah.
So that
definitely
6 short months later, you were able to overcome a lifetime of programming.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to mention that's one way of overcoming massive BS in your life, right? Is to have a significant emotional event. And generally speaking, they can be beautiful, happy ones, like giving birth to a baby, or it can be very traumatic ones that do hurt, like losing your best friend. And and really, when you were planning, the image that came to mind when you were describing how you planned with your friend her funeral and her eulogy, and that to me would be all part of it, because I think for me, I would be going, what do I want my eulogy to say?
Right.
What do I want people to say?
Yeah. That's what happened.
Right?
Yeah, that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. And and so I was tasked with writing her eulogy, and it was very much it was really the first time in my life that I feel like I was sort of facing my own mortality, because I did think, what do I want people to say about me when I'm gone? And that's when I really started, more and more as I grew and as I became and continued to become the woman that I am. It was, what kind of impact do I want to make? What kind of legacy do I want to leave in the world? What kind of mark do I want to leave? What kind of legacy am I going to leave? And so it really did impact me on just a massive way. I would not be the person, I would not be the woman that I am today had Tinsley not passed away. And, sadly, that's what it took for me to wake up to the reality that we were here for a brief period of time and we don't get, we don't have a second act. We have one chance to make an impact and to have an amazing life and to leave a legacy. And so the legacy that I want to leave is as a world changer. I want to be known as someone who made an impact, who inspired other people, who really showed people that they can overcome many, many obstacles. Because there's a lot more to my story. It's not enough. I mean, I could write a book, and it's definitely something I need to do, because there's a lot more to this than what can happen in a brief interview. But, I've overcome a lot of stuff. So have a lot of other people. We all have a story, and I feel like, that's what makes us unique, and we need to be sharing our stories and inspiring other people and not keeping all of that to ourselves. And it's, when I share my story, it's not at all, I'm not asking for, like, I don't want any sympathy or pity. It's not like that. It's just, I want people to relate to me and understand, like, if you went through this as a kid, if you had whatever it was in your family, you can change. You can choose to overcome it, and you can choose to think a different way, and you can choose to be a different person and to overcome and make your own way. You don't have to stay stuck in that scared little girl identity that I had for, sadly, most of my life. I am definitely not that person anymore. So I've definitely paved my own way, um, and it's just been an amazing journey for me. And I'm so grateful for my friend. I'm so grateful that she had the courage to tell me the truth, and I needed to hear that. And so she knew exactly what she was doing. So it was smart. For
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, it's not like I'm sure you would give anything to have her back.
Oh gosh, absolutely.
And it's not like you would wish that on
Mm.
anyone.
No.
And yet it's kind of like donating organs when somebody's about to die. It's like, if it has to happen anyway, then might as well make the most of it and help
Right.
the most people in the best way possible. And really,
Absolutely.
she wasn't just helping her best friend by making you promise that. She was helping the world, right? Because now you are, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you said you had like something like 15,000 people underneath you, right? That's people. When I say she's like amazingly successful, come on, like she is. And yet you are the role model of possibility.
Yeah.
For all of them, that you can be, do, and have anything you choose, despite your beginnings, despite adversity, despite your programming, right? You could have stayed the victim.
Sure.
Which is the downtrodden little woman.
Right.
And just given up on your dreams, and and sloughed off your promise to your friend, saying you were just making her feel good at the time, or whatever you had to say to yourself, or this is my dream to live this life, right? You could have rationalized it in so many ways, or that's fine, not for me. Like, you could have played the victim and you chose not to. And that is your greatest gift to others, because you are a genius and you're so talented. And at the same time, we all know that words don't teach.
No.
Right? That
no,
in the old
they
farmer
definitely
saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So in other words, people look at you as the example of possibility. Oh my God, she has like that many people underneath her. She went back and started competing. Well, she can do it at her age. I can do it.
That's right.
In so many ways. And that is a beautiful, beautiful legacy. And I know that you're just getting started, girl.
Oh yeah, just getting started. And it's been an amazing journey. And when I was saying earlier about how the discipline in the bodybuilding space, to achieve that kind of success in such a short period of time, it definitely did carry over into what I do now in network marketing. I joined a new company last year in April, and within 3.5 months, I was at the top rank in my company, and have created an almost 7-figure income in a very short period of time. And I've worked really, really, really hard. I mean, I have been extremely dedicated, and I've made a lot of sacrifices to do it, but I've also learned how to think. And maybe that's another podcast, but definitely, Growth U, working with Rod, and certainly working with you. I mean, golly, you've helped me unleash a lot of power, and it's just overcoming that and really tapping into your own power. And a lot of women have no idea that they have it, and it's in there. It's in there. And I think that sadly, so many women have been just beat down physically and emotionally and spiritually, and on a lot of different levels. And I've been there. I know what that's like, but you get to choose, you get to choose your reaction. You get to choose your response, I should say. It's not really, you don't want to react, you want to respond. And we all get to choose that response and how we're going to handle that moving forward. And so, I love helping people and inspiring people and coaching people. And that's really my passion now, is lifting other people up and lifting up other leaders, and just teaching them how to manifest what they want in their life, because we all get to design our lives. I mean, we get to choose, we get to design our life. And I guess this would be my final thing as we kind of wrap up, is that, if you want to know what your future is going to look like,
Mm-hmm.
then think about where you are, and then think back to how you were thinking a few years ago, because the way that you've been thinking has gotten you exactly where you are right now. So you get to choose your future, but that would be by changing your thoughts and your feelings and learning how to control your emotions and all of those things that go into manifesting and creating the life that you really do deserve. And everyone deserves that. Every single person on this planet deserves to have an amazing life. And no matter what that looks like, for some people it's one thing, and we all get to choose our own visions and ideas and all of that. So that's my message, is that you get to choose. And but staying in that victim space is the worst thing you can do. It's the worst kind of energy you can have, and certainly you'll never have you're never going to create an amazing life for yourself or your family, your kids, or whatever your why is. For me, it's my mother and my children. But you won't be able to have that unless you start changing your mindset and your identity. And that's what Rod and Growth you have helped me to do. And it's my blessing and honor to be able to pay it forward and teach other people. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And for those people who need a little bit more perhaps painful stimulus to motivate them, why not wait until somebody around you dies? How about you do that exercise? This is our challenge. I'm saying from both of us. When you finish listening to this podcast, just take a few minutes, right? And write down how you want your eulogy to be. And just check in and say, where I'm at now compared to what I want my eulogy to be, am I on track? Or do I need to do like an about face? Or do I just need to like do an abrupt left turn and head that way? In other words, what is needed to get you there? And then look at your life now and go, okay, if I continue in this vein, what will my eulogy be? Right? So that's my challenge, our challenge to you, that we want to hear from you. Put in comments just the impact or any questions or comments that you have, and let's get the discussion going, because you're not alone. Susanne's not alone. I'm not alone. We're not some holier than thou. We're real people, right? And
absolutely.
And so if we can do it, you can do it, and you are not alone. That's the whole point of us bringing this community together, and even me starting this podcast, is to show you the example of possibility. So thank you so much, Susanne. I really, truly appreciate you so much. And I know there's going to be another time, because there is so much to your story. Next time you come on, we'll talk about another facet.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
And thank you.